Good afternoon, community. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Kathleen St. Caliento, and I'm the president and CEO of Cara Collective. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for this very special virtual discussion in celebration of Black History Month. Encourage all of you to please take part in the conversation by adding your own questions, your responses to our questions in the live chat. And please, of course, include any questions that you might have for the panel, as we will have time for Q&A afterwards. So as you've seen likely in our advertisements, the theme for today's conversation is legacy, a word that obviously carries so much meaning in association with this month as we honor the people before us and the challenges that they face. When we think about legacy, though, we're often much further along in our lives, right? So folks might be wondering, especially because of how many years young myself and our panelists are, why we're talking about legacy. Well, to write our own legacy really truly means that we need to acknowledge and honor where we've been. We need to acknowledge those that came before us, but while also living in the present with intentionality, with passion, and a sense of purpose and direction. And I also want to acknowledge that many of us do not live long enough to write our own legacies, right? So this is truly a privilege, one we can't take for granted, and it comes on the shoulders of those who have come before us. So with that, I have the wonderful opportunity to be joined today by two incredible women. Dr. Suzet McKinney, who's Principal and Director of Life Sciences for Sterling Bay, and Nicole Robinson, who's the Chief Executive Officer for the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago. These amazing women are leaders in their space, advocates for our Black community, and who, like me, are also writing their legacy. I would love Nicole and Suzette to please introduce yourselves. Tell us a couple of things. Number one, introduce yourselves, what it is that you do, and what you hoped that you would grow up to be as a child. Suzette, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, Kathleen, first of all, hello to both you and Nicole. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation. So, as you said, Kathleen, I am the Director of Life Sciences at Sterling Bay. So, in that capacity, I lead our strategy for expanding the company's footprint in the life sciences nationally and work on a number of life sciences projects across the country. Let's see. So, as a young child, I hoped to grow up to be a doctor, but specifically a neonatologist. I was obsessed with babies, with kids, but especially babies. But I've always had a strong desire to help people. And so healthcare is, probably the most prominent helping industry. And so I wanted to work in the healthcare space and help little babies. So, I didn't quite do that, but I'm close. I also wanted my work to have impact. So I definitely feel very strongly that the work I do today has a lot of impact.
Absolutely, and I don't think anyone would argue with that. Nicole, how about you? Will you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. Again, I can't imagine two other people that I'd rather be in conversation with than you two. So I'm excited to be here. I'm Nicole Robinson. I'm the CEO of the YWCA of Metro Chicago. I'm celebrating my 1 year anniversary. So I'm 1 year in this role. And it's special for a couple of reasons. I'm a kid of the South Side. I claim 4 of our 77 neighborhoods in Chicagoland. I love Chicago. I want it to be better. I'm a product of what I call the 4 Ps: public school, public parks, public libraries, and public benefit programs. All of those things that are a part of our infrastructure for family and community, I benefited from that. And I do this work because I just want to see other people succeed, thrive. I want community to win. I want Chicago to win. That's kind of why I do this work. I think as a kid, I didn't imagine that I would be doing this work today, but I was always super curious. And I actually wanted to be a journalist. I had this idea. I loved understanding culture, people, art, how people live, different countries, history. I wasn't a history buff per se, but I just loved understanding people and communities. And I think although I didn't become a journalist, I think that curiosity served me well in this sort of desire to want Chicago to be better, for people to reach their full potential. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. And it's so fascinating to me how we each of us had a dream, and while we're not doing exactly what it is that we're doing, that there are some pretty significant ties. You know, I think about my own background growing up, Haitian immigrants, and anyone who's either first gen or immigrant, a child of immigrants, knows that, you know, you can pretty much just be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Those are the three options that are afforded to you. And you know, but at a young age, I knew that I did love, just like you, Suzette, loved helping people, right? And it was mostly around making math problems for my younger brother, and, you know, playing kind of teacher. So it was, you know, it wasn't surprising, I guess, to folks that my early career really focused on education reform and thinking about helping in that way. But that sort of need and that want to help people, I saw that even from an early age, helping my brother, and it continues now into the work that we're doing today, and particularly in my work at Cara Collective, with helping people really try to find the deepest truth of who they are. But all that to truly say, clearly, I didn't follow specifically in my parents' path. You know, I charted my own course. So my question for you is, do you feel as an adult today, and you both kind of alluded to this, and Nicole, we'll start with you, you know, do you feel as an adult today that you're close to that hope that you had for yourself as a child?
In many ways, yes, I feel like I've exceeded it, because again, that curiosity drove me. This desire to make a better world was driving me. I didn't imagine that it would quite play out in this way, but that curiosity enabled me to, you know, get out of the neighborhood that I grew up in, to travel the world, to go to emerging markets, Indonesia, Brazil, Ghana, all these places that I had never imagined. Maybe I read about them in books, right? I read about a lot of places that I never had the opportunity to venture out and do. And this yearning to help other people. I worked on a political campaign. Did community organize. I did all of this stuff by the time I was 25 or 26 years old. Again, motivated by curiosity, and really having a mom. My mom was a hairdresser and an entrepreneur. And my father was a self-taught jazz musician, played multiple instruments, you know, produced an album that never got published for people to hear. So in some respects, they both had dreams that were deferred. And somehow this kid from the South Side wound up pursuing some things, achieving some dreams that I couldn't have imagined. But that's what I want for other people. And that's what I love about the work that I get to do today.
I love that. I love that. What about you, Suzette? You
Amazing.
feel like you're the hopes that you'd imagined for yourself as a child, you're seeing today?
I think to some degree, yes. And similar to Nicole, in many ways, I've exceeded the hopes and dreams that I had for myself. First of all, let me just say one of the things that is so amazing to me about this conversation is the similarities
Mm,
between the three of us. I mean, just like Nicole, I'm also a product of the South Side and Chicago Public Schools, Chicago Public Parks, and Chicago Public Libraries. And also, just like Nicole said, you know, I want to see Chicago win. So not only my work, but even my civic activity contributes to, you know, seeing Chicago work. And then Kathleen, similar to you, while your parents were immigrants from Haiti, my parents were immigrants from the South. And so they came here with dreams of, you know, just this wonderful life in the North. And I really believe that I am fulfillment of the dreams that they had for this great life in the North. You know, in terms of my work specifically and fulfilling my own hopes and dreams as a child, definitely, as I said before, my work has impact. You know, I'm 20 plus years into the healthcare or healthcare adjacent fields. And what I see now about the career path that my journey has taken is that I not only help young people, not
mm,
so much babies, but I help young people here in the city of Chicago, but I also help them across this country. And that is something that I certainly did not imagine for myself. And, sometimes I wonder what life for me would have been like as a neonatologist. But then when I reflect back on the work and the experiences that I've had, also similar to Nicole, I think about all the places that I've been, the things that I've seen, and the opportunities that I've had, which are things and places and opportunities that most people never see, never get to visit, never get to explore. And for that, I'm so eternally grateful, but it gives me so much hope for, you know, what's to come,
Yep.
not just for me, but for young people, my daughter, um, Kathleen, I know you have a daughter as well, but, for just this younger generation. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's, and it's you're kind of alluding to this legacy that you're trying to build, right? And to do that, we've got to think about the folks that came before us, right? And we all kind of talked about our parents in some way, shape, or form, and how their upbringing has shaped who we are. I'd love to learn a little bit more about someone else, maybe in addition to your parents, who you admire, and what this person has truly taught you. For me, I think about there are so many people that could fit this mold, right? One woman that I'm thinking about in particular is this um, educator, African American educator named Lisa Del Pitt, and she wrote a really powerful book. I remember that was just so seminal to my education, called Other People's Children. She faced a lot of challenges, but a tenet that she really underscored was this idea of being warm and demanding, right? And so when we think about even our young people and what they need to really be successful, in particular Black and Brown people, right? We've got to love them, but we can't love them so much that we can't prepare them for what's necessary and what's coming, right? And so how can we be warm and demanding, not only with the people around us and the folks that are looking up to us, but with the people that we work with every day on a professional basis, right? And so that to me was something that truly has shaped even who I am as a leader, what it means to be warm and demanding. Who's that for you? Suzette, let's start with you. Who's that for you?
well, talk about legacy. That person for me is my grandmother, Gertrude Benson. She was just the, I don't know, quintessential woman, I guess I would say. She was a Southern belle, a socialite in her town where she lived, a mentor to many. She
Mhm.
also helped everyone in the community. Didn't matter who they were, where they came from. Miss Gertrude, as people would call her, was always there to fill in wherever she needed to fill in. But I think one of the most lasting lessons that she taught me was that as a woman, in terms of what we are capable of, there were no limits.
Mm,
And, she taught me about the power of education. She taught me that I could do whatever I put my mind to.
mm,
But I think, as I think about today's topic of legacy and why she is still such a strong role model, I often share this story that I remember as a child going to work with my grandmother. And my grandmother, again, this was in the deep South, and this was in the mid 70s. My grandmother cleaned house for a wealthy white family.
mm.
And, if you ever saw the movie The Help, that was my grandmother. And I remember going to work with her as a young child and her carrying me on her hip into the home and placing me down on the kitchen floor and saying, okay, I have to go work. You stay here until I come back. And, despite her job as a housemaker
Mm.
for this wealthy family, there were still no limits on what she could do and what she could be to her community and to all of those people around her. And so she is the person that I look up to the most, that I think about constantly. She's no longer here with us, but that message of no limits rings loud and clear in my head.
Absolutely, I love that, and it's reminding me of that Mae Jemison quote, right? Do not be limited by other people's limitations of you. I'm paraphrasing slightly, but your grandmother probably inspired her to think about those kinds of things as well. I love that. Nicole, how about you? Who's that person for you?
Oh my God. I love grandmothers. So that
Yes.
was and I just want to say my grandmother's name, Lou Avery Partee, because in the same vein, she was a part of the Great Migration from Arkansas to Chicago, and she worked at a R.R. Donnelley, which printed books in Chicago. So when I talked about that curiosity, that the books being a window of the world, she would bring me books home from work, right? Books, magazines, things that we couldn't subscribe to, we wouldn't be able to buy otherwise, as her way of helping me see the world, helping me see what was possible. Um, I do want to invoke, I'm going to cheat, Kathleen. I'm going to invoke one other person just because I think it's important. There's probably a lot of people listening that uh, we all have grandmothers, but we also have those just magical people in our lives that are in our career and they're with us, right? They're part of our kitchen cabinet. They are our friend, sister, brother, whatever it is. And for me, that woman is Amina Dickerson, and a lot of people may know Amina. She's a civic and cultural icon in the city of Chicago. And in my first sort of corporate social responsibility job, she took a chance on me, working in a big organization, helping me find my way, helping me navigate, helping me. It was the first time that I had worked for a Black woman inside corporate America, I started my career in finance. So a lot of my career, I worked for men. I worked for white men, predominantly. So I didn't know what that was like and how special that could be and how transformative that could be in my career. And she's a lifelong friend, sister. She unleashes the potential in people, and that is she's the blueprint for Black women leaders. So
I love that. I love that. And it's okay that you cheated because we're invoking all of these amazing, strong Black female role models that we've had in our lives. And of course, this is a panel of strong Black female leaders here with me today. And I know that when we think about just even this month is Black History Month, and we're celebrating that. Next month is Women's History Month. Particularly as Black women, we live in this space of intersectionality, right? That's not a concept that is new to many. But as we think about some of the progress, we know that so much progress, right, is looking at how far each of you has come in your own professional careers. So much progress has been made, but we know that there's still so much opportunity to grow. What challenges are you seeing that intersectionality still poses in your career today, and how do you hope to dismantle that? Let me start with Nicole.
Absolutely. I love that you use that phrase, for folks on the line. Kimberly Crenshaw coined the phrase about 30 years ago, but it's actually something that Black women have coped with for years. I lead the YWCA, which is a 146-year-old organization. Our mission is to eliminate racism and empower women. And that mission is not by chance. It's actually 50 years old. So it was a different mission, before that. And I think it's very interesting that it would be Black women who would raise the idea that how do we achieve gender equity, economic equity, health equity, education equity until we deal with racism? And it's a longer story. I'm on board. I'm so obsessed with this history. I could go on and on about that. But I do think that's important to lift up from a historical context. When I think about today in my own career, and I think about starting my career in finance and maybe being in a predominantly a male-dominated field, a not diverse field, and what those early years might be like, those moments of trying to find your authentic self as a leader in institutions that aren't necessarily welcoming to people of color, that aren't welcoming to women, trying to assert your leadership in spaces where they don't understand you're actually the boss when you walk in the room.
Been there, done that.
Right, what that feels like, what it feels like to be the only one, which might sound, we celebrate that, but it's a lonely moment, actually.
Right.
Right? As excited as we are, it's a lonely moment. But I also think about where we are today. I think about the fact that the three of us are on this call together. We're on this webinar together. This probably wouldn't have happened 20 years ago, right? And we're in this moment, and Kathleen and I are part of a group of Black women CEOs of nonprofit organizations. We have a group. We have solidarity with each other, which is part of how we navigate this intersectionality and some of the challenges that we face. But it couldn't have happened before. We're at a unique moment. We see it in government. We see it in other spaces, foundations. But we also know that it's absent in corporate America, that it's absent in the boardroom. There's so many sectors. The power is still held with white men.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's still this opportunity just more broadly. And I'm hopeful about our continued efforts to focus on it and change the tide, and it's with us, because it's not just about us getting to one place. It's about changing structures, institutions. It's about sharing power. And that's, I feel like, is what is part of our responsibilities as leaders. It's not just to lead our institutions, but it's really about to change the whole game, turn it upside down.
Right.
So that there's space for more people like us, and that we're not in these moments of we're the only one.
Right. That's right. Suzette, any of this resonating with you? Any of this at all?
Everything is resonating with me that Nicole just said. You know, I don't know. Sometimes it's surprising to me that in 2023, we are still dealing with this intersectionality issue that Black women face. So to some degree, it's surprising. To another degree, it's not, because as Nicole pointed out, racism is still very much alive and well. You know, I am often struck by, you know, the many rooms that I travel in and around. And in most of those rooms, I find that I have the highest level of education than anyone else in the room. And I'm always mistaken for, you know, the service provider. Let's just put it that way. Nicole, you talked about all the different industries and disciplines where these things occur. And you mentioned government. You know, I remember my years working in municipal government, and there was one occasion that I walked into a room, and it was a room of white males, and the person in charge said, "Oh, you must be here to take the notes." And I said, "Actually, I'm not. I'm Dr. McKinney. Nice to meet you." But, you know, that was in my professional setting.
Yeah.
But I will share with you, just as recently as this past weekend, you know, I live downtown and I live in a high rise building. And as I exited my building and got my keys handed to me by the valet, there was a gentleman that pulled up who actually like mistook me for the valet. And I just looked at him. I said, "Child, I live here." You know, but it was my way of just infusing a little bit of comedy
Right.
into a situation that, you know, had I thought about it too deeply, you know, it was really insulting, you know. But in terms of how I address that today and try to break that down, I feel like that's why I do so many of the things outside of my day-to-day profession that I do, mentoring young people, speaking engagements, and really just trying to be a role model for young professionals coming behind me, showing them that, again, no limits. Whatever you put your mind to, you can do. All of these places that you've been told you cannot go, absolutely you can go. I'm living proof of that. And so, you know, I think that as Black women in particular, we just have to keep going.
That's right.
We cannot depend on those barriers automatically coming down on their own. We just have to keep going and shatter the barriers as we go.
That's right. That's right. And continue to build out and across that legacy, right? And so when I think about what you have said and what you've experienced not only in your work, I would love to talk just a little bit more about how we're building that legacy in our work, starting with even just thinking about the power in our communities, right? Both of you do integral work that's so focused on communities. I think about the work that we do at Cara Collective. We've always been about community, right? And when we think about the work that we're doing, for example, our expansion to Englewood and purchasing our new home for a clean slate, thinking about our satellite campus in Bronzeville, our co-location partnership in Belmont Cragen, affiliates in Fort Wayne and Atlanta, we're truly utilizing and recognizing the power of that community. And often legacy comes from building up and strengthening and elevating the power and the voice that comes from community. Can you talk a little bit about how you're using your work to uplift that power and drive change and continue to build legacy in communities? Let's start with you, Dr. McKinney.
Okay. Well, as we said, I lead the life sciences division for Sterling Bay. Again, my experience working in public health and in the healthcare field, I'm very sensitive to healthcare disparities that we see, particularly here in Chicago, and also life expectancy disparities. And my work in the life sciences really started back in 2017. And that was the point in time where we realized this 16-year difference in life expectancy if you live on the west side of Chicago versus the Gold Coast. And so I started working on the life sciences back then as a way to try and impact those healthcare disparities and those life expectancy disparities that we were seeing in people living on the west side. And the way that I was doing that was really trying to uplift Chicago as a major life sciences market because I knew about the economic benefits of the life sciences, particularly for people who were unemployed or underemployed, probably because of, but even not, because of not having higher level degrees and being qualified for high paying jobs. And so I often speak about the economic power of the life sciences. And I remind people that if a mother, a father, a person living in community is worried about how they're going to put food on the table every night, they cannot have the capacity to think about how they're going to get to their next doctor's appointment or whether or not they're even going to go. And so I see the life sciences as a way to indirectly impact people's healthcare and life expectancy outcomes through their economic outcomes. And so that's why you will often hear me talking about the economic benefits of the life sciences. That is why I am so steadfast in my efforts to raise Chicago as a major life sciences market, but also to advance the life sciences across this country. I recently did a TED Talk, and my TED Talk, the focus was on, better healthcare and leveraging the life sciences to achieve better health status, health outcomes, and also better life expectancy outcomes. So that's just one of the things that I'm doing.
Love that. Thank you. Nicole?
Yeah, we have a thread that's running through this conversation for sure. Because like Suzette, I want to make Chicago better. And when I think about the top challenges that Chicago faces, I mean, we all know them: poverty, racism, violence, and since the pandemic, mental health. We're hanging on a string. Families are hanging on a string. And when I think about the work of the YWCA, with this higher mission of eliminating racism and empowering women, we do that work by building community resilience to heal from trauma and belong, which is a lot of what we've talked about today, to unleash youth potential, but then build the economic equity that communities need to thrive. And that really gets at the intersection of all of the challenges that we face. The thing that I'm really most excited about, because when we think about equity, for me, it's about sharing power, right? Sharing and building power, not just sharing opportunity, but sharing power. And for us, we have some great programming around unleashing the potential of entrepreneurs. We're talking about Black women in leadership today. Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the United States. We have genius, we have hustle, like all of that we have. What a lot of the women need more of is that support, that investment. So we have an accelerator program for Black women-owned businesses called Breed Love. It's named after Madam C.J. Walker. I'm infusing a little history, Kathleen.
Yes.
If you're on the call, you might know Madam C.J. Walker, but she was the first woman millionaire, not the first Black woman, but the first woman millionaire.
Yep.
She's a social entrepreneur. She leveraged her knowledge about hair care for Black women, beauty care, and she was, before there was Mary Kay, there was Madam C.J. Walker, and she had agents across this country. She trained them. She gave them products. They built their own businesses, and she was a washerwoman. So she went from washerwoman to millionaire, from washerwoman to philanthropist, right? And she leveraged her business not just to make a ton of money, because her goal was, her mission statement wasn't, I just want to make a lot of money and stop. That it wasn't it. Her mission was to uplift Black people. And she thought she could do that through economics and through policy, because she was also an anti-lynching advocate. So I say all that to say is this program is in her honor, and we help Black women entrepreneurs through a multi-week accelerator where we help them get access to capital, help them with marketing, help them with scaling their businesses. I'm on fire for this program. There are entrepreneurs across this city who have been through this. And then there's just, it's hard being an entrepreneur. It's lonely being an entrepreneur. So they have community and resistance in this program. And it's just, I think it's the key to unlocking businesses on the south and west sides of the city.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. Just building that community, right? And we all know the power of that, and not only helping to uplift each other, but to help cement that legacy as well. I want to make sure we have enough time to open it up for question and answer. So I think I'll move to our last question here before doing that, which is, we've been talking about writing our legacies, and as you think about your legacy, as you think about the book that tells your story, what's that next chapter in your story, and how do you want to be remembered?
You should let our historian go first.
Yes, go ahead. You go first.
The historian.
Yes, the historian, Madam C.J. Walker. We've got Kimberly Crenshaw. We know all of them. Yes.
I'm not evoking any history, but I will. So I'm in I'm in my first year as CEO of the YWCA. So I feel like I'm at the beginning of my next chapter. But for me, it's all about, I want my legacy to be about movement building. And it really goes back to that early curiosity and that desire to want Chicago to be better, to make sure that everyone should reach their full potential. We should all have access to education and economic opportunity. We have a wealth gap and a health gap and all these other gaps that is shameful. It's shameful. So we have to reimagine a model where we all win. It can't be that some of us, we got through. We're the 3 people on the call that got through, right? But it should be everybody breaks through and everyone wins. And it's for us to redesign it. It's not for us to sort of lead in a way that maybe our predecessors did, or lead in a way that historically white institutions have led. It's our opportunity to say, that was a nice playbook, but we're rewriting it. Right. This is a different script, and we're rewriting it in a way that people have opportunity, they're inspired, they feel seen and heard. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to make people be seen and heard, to feel visible, and to feel like they can win. They can take care of their families. They can succeed. So I know that's that might be a little fluffy and out there, but that's at the core really what I want.
I love that. I love that. Helping Chicago win, helping people win. How about you, Suzette?
My response is very similar. So this week actually marks my year number 2 here at Sterling Bay. And what I would tell you is I am just getting started. When I started here 2 years ago, my boss said to me, I not only want you to really do this big in Chicago, but I want you to help us spread this across the country. Don't tell him, but I have eyes outside the country. So I'm going to spread this internationally. We'll fill him in when the time is right. But at the end of the day, what I want is for people to say, this place is better because she was here. And that place is an organization, it's a company, it's this city, it's every city where I go, and it'll be every country where I go. The impact that my work has, I want people to say, this is better because she was here.
Absolutely. I love that. And so much. Yes, please.
As I was just going to say, as one of my former coworkers would say, that's it and that's all.
Yes, that is a legacy to behold for sure. And I am an incredible company and very similar company, right? I mean, we don't go into this work because it's about us, but it's about the mark that we leave behind. It's about the change that we want to see and about wanting to help people win. I love that. Helping Chicago win, helping people win. Thank you both so much. I'm going to open it up now to the community to begin to ask a few questions. So we have one question here to the panel. Liz asks, how does the idea of building your legacy connect to the work that Cara and other organizations are doing to empower people who've been historically oppressed to write their own? That's a deep question, right? That's a deep question. And I think about, let me just, if I may, I'll start quickly with Cara. When I think about the work that we do, typically with folks who face such significant barriers, right? And have faced, as we like to say, either injustice, a misstep, or a misstep or a mistake. And so one of the things that we think about when we talk about Cara is that everyone deserves the best that life has to offer, right? And when we think about the fact that so many of our folks have been told that they are the results of their mistakes, that they don't deserve a second chance, we're here to help them change that mentality, right? And so much of writing your legacy is being allowed that voice back, right? And when that voice has been stamped out, it's hard to write a legacy or think that you even deserve to write a legacy. And we have a saying here that says, that helps our participants understand that they deserve the best that life has to offer. And when I think about the work that we do, and it's not just about finding a job, but it's truly finding yourself again, usually, and often, that's really is about the work that we do here. How about you, Nicole? When you think about the work that you're doing, how does that resonate for you?
Yeah, no, I think about two things. One of my values that I bring to the work is centering on the people most impacted, right? So we talk about community, we lead these organizations, but it's not for us to impose all of our ideas on what community should have. Our goal is to unleash the genius that is in community, right? And unleash their voice. And understand what it is that they want. And there is a history of that not being done. And it's tempting, right? Because we're all great. We've been to B school. We've been, you guys have doctors in your title, right? So we've been highly educated in ways that actually go against that sometimes, right? So even as women of color, we have to remind ourselves that no, we need to center on community. The second thing I'd say is, yes, I'm bringing in history again.
She's the historian.
The history part is important, and I'm reminded of that because there's so much about our history of Black people as BIPOC people in this country that has been erased. We actually have been educated in a way where we've missed some really compelling parts of the story and the history, which is actually American history. So we have to go back and reflect. And what that does is, in addition to just knowing the story, we understand what the mistakes were. What were the mistakes that led to poor policies, bad decisions, inappropriate programs, systems that have marginalized people? Because we don't want to repeat them. We want to be different. So, in our desire to rewrite, it's really important to understand what we don't want to do that was done before. So, for me, like those two things go together because we want a different legacy than
Absolutely. It's about not about it's about rewriting, not erasing, right? That history.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. How about you, Suzette?
Yeah, so honestly, building off of what Nicole said, as I think about my own work and what I'm doing, I'm sort of in the middle of two areas where women are underrepresented and people of color, specifically Black people, are underrepresented. And that is number one, in commercial real estate, and number two, in the life sciences. And so I think when it comes to empowering women and people of color in these two fields, number one, it's about recognizing opportunities that have not been extended to those people. So I'll just really focus in on the life sciences. We know that women and people of color have less access to capital, less access to advisors, and less access to just networking opportunities to meet advisors, to meet capital partners. And so we have a lot of efforts that are going on here at Sterling Bay that really just focus on helping to create opportunity where opportunities have not existed for those groups in the past. And, I'm really seeing some benefits from that work. And it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of an organization that recognizes what has happened, or better yet, what has not happened, and respects what women and people of color bring to these industries. And we're trying to do something about it.
Exactly right. Exactly right. We have another question from the audience. Shanika asks, "How do you deal with racism on the job?" I will open that up to whichever one of you wants to respond to that.
I'll start. One of the things that is ever present in my mind is that the fact that I'm a woman, the fact that I'm a Black woman, does not limit me as to what I can do. Now, that doesn't mean that when I walk into certain rooms, people, it doesn't mean that people won't try to pretend like I'm not there, or pretend as though I don't have a significant contribution to make to the conversation. And so I guess in answer to the question, I would say, I move through my day and all of the activities that my days contain with full confidence that I have every right to be there. Someone asked me once about imposter syndrome, and this is, slightly related, but I often say in response to that question, I have worked very hard to get into the rooms that I'm in, to sit at the tables where I'm in. So if I know that I've put in the work, why would I doubt my ability to be there? And so when it comes to this race question and race issue, it's the same for me. Full speed ahead. Again, no limits. I'm here because I deserve to be here. Whether you want me here or not is a different story.
Right.
But
That's right.
move over because I'm coming through.
That's right. That's right. How about you, Nicole? Do you want to respond?
I think I'm following Suzette through the door. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Exactly. Right behind. We're all right behind you.
Right. So I love what you said. The one thing I would add, I'm in a different field now, so I'm in the nonprofit sector. in the area of region that we're in, I'm thinking about Black and Brown people, BIPOC people, how the work impacts us. We have a diverse organization at the YWCA, and I'm proud of all of those things. What I feel like, and, we talk about issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I think when I think about dealing with racism, I'm thinking more about how to transform this system and structure that we're in the nonprofit sector, right? That applies our racial equity lens so that we create programs, we create opportunities that benefit people who have been most marginalized. And I think those are nuanced conversations, right? Because again, we're in rooms with really smart people, masters in social work, been doing the work for 30 years, but haven't really thought about, I would say, how what you have done may have been not good for Black and Brown people. And how do we need to transform how we think, the language we use, even in how we market our stories and tell our stories about success and people sliding through, and what is, what kind of narratives do we create and tell in the sector? So I think that's the part that's more nuanced, because, again, we're all trying to have conversations about race and equity inside institutions. And how can I be authentic and specific and direct in these conversations without making people feel bad?
Right.
Right. Without them feeling like I'm challenging what it is they know, because they're experts. They've been doing it for 30 years. They're highly educated. That's different. And I like to say to people when I get in those conversations, we're on a different racial equity journey. We're just in a different stage. I'm not challenging what you know. We're just in different stages in the journey. So for me, that's the thing that I've probably had to deal with most recently, the sector itself, because just because we're all serving communities of color, it doesn't mean that we don't understand or have an ability to recognize when we've done communities of color a disservice. And that, because that's like self-awareness. That's saying that, man, maybe we made a mistake.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so, we could have gone on for 2 more hours. I know we could have gone on for 2 more hours, and we talked about this, but I would love to just maybe close with one last question. If you could quickly tell us, you're talking about some of the challenges and the tough conversations that you both have had to have, right? How do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated, focused on your purpose when faced with these challenges? What does that look like for each of you? Let me start with you, Suzette.
Well, I know the work that I'm doing is making a difference. And one of the things that helps me stay motivated is seeing the impact of my work. Another thing that helps me stay motivated is, when I go places and people say, "Oh my God, I heard you speak here," or, "I follow you on LinkedIn. It's so wonderful to meet you." I mean, I recognize that people are following my work and they see me, and I'm able to help influence this up and coming generation. So those are some of the things that help me stay motivated. And, it doesn't hurt when my TED Talk comes out on YouTube and my daughter posted on her Instagram. I'm like, yes, she liked it.
Yes.
It's hard to impress these young people. I'm 20-something. My daughter's 21. So the fact that she posts me on her Instagram, I was like, okay, I did that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I love that. How about you, Nicole?
I love that. You have street cred now, Suzette.
Yes.
One of my favorite people in the world is Bell Hooks, social commentator, feminist. She, and I can't quote her exactly, but she has this quote around building communities of resilience where we can heal and belong. And I think that is what keeps me going as a leader. So I mentioned that Kathleen and I are a part of a group of Black women CEOs that come together periodically to connect. That's a community of resilience. I have a group of friends in my neighborhood that I can call on. That's my community of resilience. My 81-year-old mom, she's part of that community of resilience, because that's all we all want, belonging, right? And we get a bit of that at work. But it can't be the only place and space where we get it, especially when we talk about topics, heavy stuff like this, racism and gender and intersectionality. We just need that crew that we can go work out with, or go to that concert, like arts and culture. I love that. That's my, healing too. So yeah.
Love that. I love that. I love that. Yeah, and it's not just about seeing, it's both seeing the impact of your work and hearing and knowing that people see that and see you, and also taking that time to sort of reflect, rejuvenate for yourself as well. I couldn't agree more. Love that. And it pains me that our time has come to an end, but I wanted to just say thank you so much to these amazing women, whom I also get to call friends, our panelists, Dr. Suzet McKinney and Nicole Robinson. Thank you also to everyone tuning in. My hope for today is that everyone here, as you resume in your day, your week, your month, you think about your legacy. Think about how you're helping someone else build their legacy, and how are you writing your own. Also encourage you to click the subscribe button here to follow our YouTube channel, where we'll host more talks, share more stories of transformation throughout the year. And then quick ways to engage. Nicole, if people want to engage, what should they do? Where should they go if they want to engage with the YWCA in your work?
YWCAchicago.org, and
Wonderful.
we're on LinkedIn, Instagram.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And Dr. McKinney, if people want to learn more about the work that you're doing with the life sciences at Sterling Bay, where should they go to connect with your work?
They can go to sterlingbay.com and connect with Sterling Bay on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram, or connect with me on LinkedIn, Suzet McKinney.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And if you're looking for more ways to engage with our community here at Cara Collective, including volunteering, partnering, making a donation, obviously, you can learn more at caracollective.org. Lastly, on Friday, March 24th, we are going to be celebrating this beautiful community at our 8th annual Cara Gala. We hope that so many of you will be able to show up in support, that you can learn more about the work that we're doing. For more information specifically on our gala, please go to caragala.org. Thank you again. And as we say at Cara Collective, let's make it a great day.